Sabah al-khair, bonjour, and good morning, everybody. Actually, I'm here speaking on behalf of the whole smart city team of Algiers, which includes basically a lot of the smart city people, but also a lot of the students and a lot of the ones that contribute to the project. So first of all, I would like to thank those who are honoring us by being here today. I would like to also thank in particular all our guests that came to join us here in Algiers. I think the last I counted was about guests from over 50 countries joining us today, and speakers from over 40 countries joining us as well. So welcome to all here in Algiers. I'm going to give you like an overview of the Smart City project and how we approached it. The good thing with Smart City projects is we end up to define them based on the objectives and the goals we want to have, so tactical goals and strategic goals, right? In the Algiers context, the way we looked at it was, when we started about a year ago, was what do we want to do on the smart city front? I mean, what is it really that we want to achieve, right? So we had to step back and think about it. And we looked at a number of things that we wanted to reach. But ultimately, we had to ask the question, what is it that we really want to solve as a problem? Which basically meant, what are the problems that we have identified and that we want to work on, right? So we found three things that we believe are key to look at. Not for Algiers only, but I think they're common to a lot of the emerging countries as well. Number one is, even though there are a lot of things happening in Algiers and Algeria and many other parts of the world, in the emerging world, but there is a fairly heavy isolation from the leading technology clusters of the world, the 5-10 leading the world, right? So we say, okay, I mean, this is a problem, how do we approach it? Number two, even if we go and develop technology, I mean, there is still quite a bit of dependency on advanced technologies being developed all over the world. So how do we address that? And number three, even if we have started building a lot of the startups and the startup ecosystem in Algiers and Algeria, there is still a lack of confidence basically able to grow them and have technology champions that can go on a global scale and compete, right? So in the Smart City project, we looked at these three challenges and said, okay, how do we address them? So we looked at multiple solutions, and we've been working on a number of things, but really the common denominator to all these solutions is that it has to come back to talent and expertise. So we said, how do we go and come up with a plan that allows us to basically develop a talent mobilization model and execute on it, which basically means any solution we want to put together means having the talent and the expertise to do it. And it's been key to a lot of what we have developed in the Algiers Smart City project. So we put together two things, many things, but two very important things that we started with, right? The first one is we framed the Smart City project as a federating project that includes pretty much all the stakeholders and the value chain within the ecosystem on the technology side, on the business side, on the regulation side, on anything that can contribute to solving the three challenges we have defined, right? In this context, a lot of what you see in terms of execution on the Smart City project is about having different entities work with each other, synergize with each other, and jointly work on solving specific challenges. So, I can give a lot of examples that we've gone through, but ultimately, that has been a guiding principle for the Smart City Algiers strategy. The second thing we have to put together is we realized that it was difficult for us working on the Smart City project by just taking technologies and applying them and basically following and depending and just taking this linear approach in applying technology. So we looked at that specific problem and we realized that right now, I mean, we're living in a very special time where there is really an opening in terms of technology. There is an opening in terms of new technologies coming to market fairly fast. They're fairly new. They're fairly open in terms of how to access them, and they are all based on the concept of collaborative work which is people collaborate with each other to develop these technologies, right? So we looked at that and said, okay, given that we have this like window of opportunity in terms of the type of technologies that are coming to market, is there an opportunity for us to grab that and focus on them and help us basically disrupt or help us basically address and leverage these continuities on the technology side that we are living in right now on a global scale. So the Algiers Smart City's second guiding principle has been to focus on what we call these leapfrog technologies that are, again, new, disruptive, open, and giving us a chance to basically move way faster with new business models and new technology models, right? So that's the second one. In terms of what we have been working on, I think the project started about a year ago, like 12 months ago, give and take. And we went with an approach that is one very pragmatic. I mean, we did not want to go with basically a model of building frameworks and building concepts and then applying that into execution. No, we went with a bottom-up approach, meaning we said, okay, what are the problems we want to solve? What are the strategic goals we want to achieve? What are the guiding principles in terms of what to apply and how to apply it, which is what I just described here, and we went bottom up. So pretty much all the work that we have been doing within the context of the project, being with the local ecosystem of researchers, of engineers, of developers, of schools, basically all that ecosystem that I have been talking about, right? But it's been okay. I mean, we start, we build, and we go up the value chain from there. So that's number one. Number two, we took an approach where, we just don't go and do many things in parallel just to do them. We went with an approach which is very, very common when you go and build startups like, Silicon Valley startups or others. You try to focus on one thing, you do it once, you make it successful, and then you repeat it many times, right? So in the project here, we took the same approach. Basically, we said, okay, let's pick very specific problems, work on solutions, make sure we achieve results, and then when we do that, we go with a repeat model and scale via a repeat model, which is an approach we have taken, and we have, fairly succeeded in terms of results, taking that. The last thing in terms of execution within the last year and moving forward is we really wanted to have a two horizons type approach, which is short-term execution, but also build things that are incremental and take us into a longer-term approach and a longer-term execution. So basically, you will see whatever we have in terms of Smart City Project Algiers. It follows this principle of short-term execution, long-term vision, and basically build increment and build based on what you do and then grow from there, right? So all the initiatives we've taken in the Smart City Algiers project have been following this design principles, I would say. And a year after, if we pause and look at it, we realize that it's an approach that at least has a chance to succeed if we sustain it long term. One example of why we believe this is an approach that can work and can scale and can sustain itself over the long term. I don't know if you know, but yesterday and today and tomorrow, we have been working primarily with a lot of the students from all the country and from overseas on putting together the largest technology competition, like a hackathon competition, from the largest in Africa, from the numbers I've seen at least. We've had over 500 participants wanting to join, or at least registered to join. We have shortlisted about 250 plus, I think. And for the last 24 hours and for the next at least 24 hours plus, they are working nonstop on solving specific problems right here at the outskirts of Algiers. I took pictures, or they took pictures, and they just sent them to me this morning that are shown here. And this picture highlights basically the energy that's available, the creativity that's available, which basically illustrates all the strategies that Smart City Algiers has put together. So if you look at this hackathon as an example, as one out of many initiatives that has been put together, it really follows this guiding principle. Basically, we're going with a focus on talent. We have a very high concentration of talent within this technology hub today. They're working right now. They are working specifically on this leapfrog technology that I mentioned, basically these non-linear technologies. That's all they're doing and focused on right now. They are working closely with all the experts that they have access to here, but also globally. A lot of our guests and speakers from this conference were sitting with all the teams yesterday to exchange information, which basically addresses a lot of the challenges I described before, right? So this is basically timely because we've put a strategy, we've put an execution, and we have a live example happening right now with all these teams showing what is happening, right? So it's a good like illustration of that things are possible and things can happen. So to summarize, and what we've been thinking in terms of Smart City project, I go back like a year ago, and the initial discussion is really what do we want to do here? What makes sense to do here? I think the team, all the Algiers city team, basically, really realized that we live in a special time, and we saw an opportunity, right? And anyone who's worked on building businesses or building startups know that the opportunities don't come very often. They come rarely, and when they come, they don't last. So in the city team, we decided to basically grab that opportunity, which we did. We decided to execute on it, which we are doing. And we decided to execute on it with an approach that's well thought through, that can show results short term, but also can be sustained long term to basically get us to the goals we want to achieve, right? So that's been the guiding principle, and I think for that I would like to thank all those that have been contributing to the project, but specifically a lot of the really schools and research labs here in Algiers and Algeria that really basically did most of the work and basically have been contributing to most of the project that's been going on. So thanks to all, and thank you very much for listening. Thank you.